Today we will talk about the rise of Jeffrey Epstein, which ultimately led to his death in a solitary cell, about the favorite girls of curvy Weinstein, about the equally amorous Clinton and his loyal defender Hillary. Also about when, how, and why the Trump administration is planning to start a purge of fraudsters, thieves, and terrorists from among United States citizens, what we need to prepare for and what will happen in detail, and naturally, specifically about our emigration and what relation we might have to this. But we'll start with instructions on how to become as rich and famous as Epstein. What do you need to do for that? I'll reveal 3/4 of the secret to you, but you'll have to figure out the rest on your own. Dynamic Denaturalization, how can you get rich very quickly? Journalist David Enrich, on assignment from the New York Times, spent almost a year studying the smallest details of Epstein's biography and came to a shocking conclusion. Dynamic, do you think that basically means Epstein made his billions through blackmail? Dynamic, no. Do you think it's the ability to make deals while sitting in a jacuzzi with naked presidents? No, dynamic. So what then? You'll have to dynamic. Walk with me a 15-minute long road to understand the simple but dizzying story of this, of course, depraved, unscrupulous, and so beloved by the dynamic American elite man, not only American but international as well, who has already been called the dynamic pedophile of the century. Dynamic.
And it really starts at Bear Stearns, where Epstein is introduced to a certain Ace Greenberg, who was one of the leading executives at this investment company. Greenberg and another colleague, Jimmy Kane, who also held a high position in the firm, took Epstein under their wing as their protege. And Epstein began a series of misdeeds at Bear Stearns, ranging from embezzlement, lying on his resume, providing a girlfriend, to early access to lucrative investment deals. And time and again, Epstein's patrons at the bank stood up for him and essentially saved him from trouble. This marked the start of Epstein's lifelong habit of pushing boundaries and crossing ethical, moral, and sometimes legal lines. He always got away with it without consequences.
Jeffrey went to work for an investment company, committed occupational crimes, but was never punished. Subtitles, why? I knew several employees of that same company. I had a fairly close friend working there, let's put it that way, who also came from Israel like me and moved to New York. And there, I know there was strict discipline. The slightest deviation was punished. A step to the left, a step to the right, so to speak, was practically an immediate firing squad. So why did Jeffrey get off scot-free?
And this was a time in the late 70s and early 80s when drugs and sex were flourishing within the company itself. Epstein seemed to be supplying some top managers with drugs and access to women. And so, he had leverage and he wasn't afraid to use it.
I used to visit Bernstein. Right at the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s, I met with a number of their, let's say, top executives. And I have to say I was a bit surprised at how easy it was. Dealers at Studio 54, Studio 54, for those who know, was here in New York. They would lay out lines of cocaine on the mirrors they brought, and how guys in expensive suits and even more expensive ties would roll up bills from paper. They'd make tubes out of $100 bills, tubes from paper, and snort those pricey lines of cocaine up their noses. My buddy is this 2-meter tall guy, a former center forward for the Tel Aviv University basketball team. He was pointing out all sorts of famous people to me, nudging me with his finger, nodding his head, saying, "Look there." And also those who served them. He knew all of them, of course, who supplied cocaine, heroin, lysergic acid diethylamide, and girls, and sometimes, naturally, young muscular guys, too. I don't know if Epstein was ever there. I think he was, but I know that crowd well, and I don't know if I was lucky or, on the contrary, unlucky. At that time, I was directing 2 children's shows at Lincoln Center in New York, but for some reason, I didn't attract any interest from the cocaine dealers or the young girls, who in the Epstein case are called victims. Maybe it was my shoes, maybe it was written on my face, I don't know. Those young girls I met there and at other parties, by young, I mean really young, under 17, they definitely knew they were at work. If they also got a line of cocaine or a cocktail, they saw it as an unexpected or expected gift. They were driven by two ideas. One was to make money, and the other was to hang out with the powerful people of the world. Both ideas were actually equally important to them. I'm not sure money was the main idea. So, the powerful people of the world. They wanted to know that the drugs came from a responsible source. God forbid there was something mixed in there, and that the girls were healthy and wouldn't try to blackmail them later. This was ensured by a system of trusted suppliers who hung around nearby and, as it turned out, would show up at the first sign of a client's request. So let's get back to the secret of getting rich, because I'm sure you've been waiting for this moment. Here's the instruction, and it's absolutely free. First, gather half a dozen. For now, you don't need more very long-legged, sexually attractive girls under 17 years old. They need to have IDs stating that they are under 17. Second, teach them how to behave, and most importantly, what not to say and what absolutely not to do when in close proximity to the client. Third, explain to them that any attempt at blackmail will be immediately stopped with a minor injury and possibly the death of someone close to them. Fourth, make them visit your doctor once a week for a checkup, and by the way, also ensure guaranteed non-pregnancy for them. Well, at 93, let's say. Fifth, become a dealer of cocaine and fentanyl or whatever else will be fashionable in your society at that time. And sixth, get acquainted with a circle of rich and influential people and let them use your products for free. Just keep expanding that circle. The only thing you ask of your clients is to introduce you to their friends and, so to speak, some other people who would help expand your circle of useful contacts. Seventh. At the stage when your clients are getting used to the fact that your supply, your top quality goods, there is variety, and it doesn't become public knowledge, start the second stage, monetization. But as for how to do that, I don't know, you'll have to ask someone else, but for the first part I can vouch for it. I saw it with my own eyes, and not just once. Hill Bill is preparing to land at Clinton's villa. We know that he has a trail of rapes behind him, vile and absolutely dirty acts, dirty, vile acts with women he seduced, and then the reprisals that Hillary carried out against those who tried to complain. Well, or so to speak, they were persecuted for something else as well. Just literally a day ago, the FBI published 300,000 photos and other documents, and some were previously banned from further publication, judges in 3 districts. So, under pressure from Trump, they all agreed to release them with one condition. If the girl in the photo, let's say, or in the documents was under 18 at the time when they wrote about her or photographed her, then her face had to be covered. So every time you see a black square covering a girl's face, it means that she was, as they say, younger than 18. And I suspect that she was younger than 17. That is, she is a minor and sexual relations with her. In America, this is called rape, with a specific term, 104 rape, but still it's rape. So if the man is older, I don't know what happens if the boy is 8 and she's 13. And it's subject to prosecution. Accordingly, this case is prosecutable and punishable, and the punishment is mandatory. So, who is in these photos then? The Democrats foolishly demanded to publish them. For some reason, they decided that since Trump isn't in a hurry or is resisting, or let's say isn't very sure that they should be published, so they thought there was compromising material on him or on well-known Republicans. They were wrong. All these materials were in Biden's people's hands for 4 years, and if there was anything there, it would have been used long ago. Yeah, oh, Hillary. By the way, we know that at least 84 people she did some business with, or had dealings with, or shared secrets with, or something else, committed suicide or suddenly died under completely strange circumstances. So, who is seen with young girls in the jacuzzi hugging them with naked and half-naked, with young and very young girls? The girls clearly knew where they were going, what was expected of them, and what they would get for fulfilling their duties. Often their parents knew everything in detail, as did the girls themselves. After the first visit to the brothel, as they call it now. Yes, they could have chosen not to go a second or fifth time, but for some reason they did, and they were very upset about it. As we now know, if and when they stop being called the evil barmaid. Weinstein editor is just like with Harvey Weinstein. When actresses standing in line in the hotel corridors where he stayed later said that he invited them to his room at 1 in the morning, they expected to discuss a role, but oh horror, you wouldn't believe what actually happened. He wanted sex. Later, it's true they did get roles. Some even became stars, but that was solely because of their talent and personal charm. And he, the monster, would suddenly attack, order them to undress, and they, numb with fear and shame, would naturally undress carefully and do terrible things with him. And the second time he called her. And this time they were already sure that he would talk about makeup and costume. But it turned out to be rape again. Oh, horror. And again for her. It was completely unexpected for them. Angelica Jolie said that he did not make sexual advances. It's not clear what that means. Selma Hayek apparently got the role of Frida. She speaks after, but I mean before. It's very similar like after the visit. Gwyneth Paltrow got the lead role in the movie Emma, as the rumors say, after a massage given by Harvey in his hotel room at night. She actually says that first she signed the contract for the role, and only then, well again, so to speak. Who can figure that out now, right? Ashley Jott, Harvey invited her to watch him take a shower. I'm not joking, so Pasta La Huerte called, raped, called again, and raped again. What a bastard. I think that's enough talking about this. It's clear what kind of beast he was and how gentle, pure, and innocent our Hollywood stars were before the corrupting influence of my namesake. Just please don't think that I'm trying to whitewash him. So he was quite a bastard, but a talented one. Probably the best Philippics of Hollywood from that period are associated with him. So Clinton, he kept giving money all the time, but it didn't help. And what about the Somalis, Afghans, Russians, and Ukrainians who got citizenship through deception?
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Trump administration is increasing efforts to strip more naturalized immigrants of United States citizenship. That's according to a report in the New York Times, which found internal directives issued this week by a field office of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, with a request to provide the Immigration Court Administration with between 100 and 200 denaturalization cases per month. In the next fiscal year, the Times reports that this would mean a massive escalation of denaturalization in the modern era. This news came less than 2 weeks after the Supreme Court agreed to consider the constitutionality of President Trump's executive order aimed at ending birthright citizenship. To talk about all this, as well as the latest threat from the Trump administration that was announced last night, and about the diversity visa program, which gives many people the opportunity to get a green card.
That is 88 immigration field centers in the United States. Each one must submit between 100 and 200 cases per month for denaturalization and deportation of people who were caught lying during the naturalization process. Before that, there were only 15 cases a year. But now, every month, there will be from 8,800 to 17,600 cases, and per year, If you multiply by 12, that's from 105,600 to 211,200 people. Losing citizenship. So what will be the grounds for losing citizenship? I'm sure you're interested. It's interesting and probably useful. If not for you, then for many of your acquaintances. A fake identity means you pretend to be someone else. False information in applications. Sham marriages mean that visa and asylum fraud is quite easy to uncover. I don't know what that means. I just don't know. So also those who are connected with national security, meaning suspicions of terrorist ties, connections to foreign intelligence, technology theft, or involvement in war crimes. This kind of, well, almost has nothing to do with us, almost has nothing to do with anyone. So, a separate category is the economy. Members of cartel gangs, financial, legal, and other auxiliary activities related to economic crimes. This also includes first-time rape, involvement in human trafficking, organizing the use of slave labor, especially child labor. This is probably after 300,000 children entered the United States during Biden's time. And I think this is not really about us, but what about us? What is ours, ladies and gentlemen? This is fraud, medical programs, robbing social programs, the disabled, the elderly, the sick, children, and so on. In other words, involvement in scams and fraud with the elderly. Kindergartens, for example, will analyze their store equipment for medical supplies. The goals, I don't know exactly what they're called, are organizing unnecessary tests, prescribing unnecessary medications in significant amounts, providing unnecessary services, especially surgical operations, and then credit manipulations during COVID. There will be a special department for this, a special investigation into fraud related to all benefits and similar things connected to COVID, and everything else our immigration likes to play with, including accidents and all sorts of things. Work incidents like falls, injuries, numbness, and similar issues. 200,000 cases a year is quite a lot, especially since most of the investigations will naturally take place in immigration centers. There's Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Seattle, Miami, Boston, and Philadelphia. I think by the middle of 2026, we'll hear some familiar names, whose activities the Russian-speaking diaspora, of course, knows very well.
The United States has two categories of citizens. Those who are born in this country are automatically citizens by birth. This is what we call citizenship by right of soil. And naturalized citizens are those people, immigrants, who can apply for citizenship after they have lived here for 5 years, pass a basic civics exam, have no criminal record, and so on. The Constitution treats both types of citizens the same. Citizens by birth and naturalized citizens are equal under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. You must prove that the citizen lied on the application and that it significantly affected the outcome. For example, we mostly know about people who were war criminals and hid their past, those who were members of the Nazi Party during World War I. These are the best-known cases. That is, you had to distort information about yourself or hide it, or commit fraud in your application about something that would have very serious consequences. Now, in June, the Trump administration significantly expanded the list of grounds on which they could revoke someone's naturalization. These include connections with gangs or cartels, people who have been involved in human trafficking, people who have committed financial fraud against the government or private individuals or any organizations. This is quite an interesting case.
Gentlemen, they can't and won't just send you a letter tomorrow saying, "Give up your citizenship and get out." What could happen is a lawsuit for alleged violations, followed by a court investigation with evidence. They have to prove it, not you, that you're not a camel. There will be a trial for each of the charges. Actually, Trump can call in lawyers from the army and make them judges, so this process will speed up. I think that's exactly what they're planning to do. In any case, this is denaturalization. The process is slow and lengthy, so if it happens, it won't be anytime soon. That's basically all that's known as of today. Trump wants to rid the country of pedophiles, thieves, and fraudsters, and he started with those who came from abroad. They'll get around to dealing with those born here as well. Of course, it's a bit more complicated with them. You can't just kick them out, but you can do something about them. If you want to get interesting content, subscribe, make sure to hit the bell, and share this informational video with friends who might find it interesting and useful. Well, for now, goodbye and see you next time.